What has been your journey from army to the corporate world, that shift?
I consider myself as a backstreet boy. I wanted to study in a good department wherein it has a great diversity and a great professors. I've been always very, very social in my behavior and had got into student politics. I contested election. So somewhere people back home were thinking कि ये जा कहाँ रहा है? I think what is happening? I got into combined defense services, which was a UPSC examination, and I was an NCC cadet. I used to strive to get into Republic Day parade with my subedars and all in a smaller city like Balia. So somewhere at the back of mind it was there that I should wear a uniform, and it so happened that first attempt I qualified. 21 years of age I got commissioned as a second lieutenant. Can you believe a boy from a small city landing there in a bus wherein there are 70-80 students? And most of these kids were from a good background. Half of them were Fauji's kids. Some of them were DPS educated, Delhi, Bombay, different places. And we are coming from, small city. I think that was the high of life. In army, you have to be physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit. If you can figure out your mojo around these three areas, you can succeed in any situation. I got posted to J&K, and 93 was a disturbed area for Kashmir. 3 years spent there, and it brought the completely man out of a boy in that situation. And I remember when I reached regiment, I was told that you are nominated for a commando course, which had to happen after 2 months in Belgaum. And I always felt that I have finished my academy training, I'm back to the regiment, now life will be a bit thanda, I think not too much of a physical buggery. But when this news came to me, I was quite depressed. Yaar, abhi to kiya tha. Again, commando is a 35 days course in Belgaum, and if you have seen that movie Prahar of Nana Patekar of olden days,
I remember
so I was nominated for that program, and while I was doing that program for 35 days, every 24 hours you will think of giving up. So building resilience, independence, never say die spirit sort of a thing basically got inculcated very, very early in life. And I think that it all works. Army taught me that you are given resource, you please handle it and get the best out of them. So, and this drives what? This drives huge amount of trust. If you are traveling, don't travel for the tick box exercise. Travel is huge amount of education. Somewhere record your experience in a video and with a visual surround. It's such a powerful use of technology to really connect back with these places, experience the place, local cuisine, local travel, meet new people. There is a couplet which says, डिग्रियां तो तालीम के खर्चे की रसीदें हैं, इल्म तो वो है जो किरदार में झलकता है.
Hi, welcome to Office Tales and People podcast. Today we are going to be in conversation with Yuvaraj Srivastava, who is a group CHRO of MakeMyTrip. I'm sure you're going to have an interesting set of conversations and discussions that you will hear from us today.
So hi, welcome Yuvraj. We both are super excited to have you on our podcast.
Thank you so much. I think it's a pleasure to talk to both of you. I think this is going to be interesting.
It's going to be
Let
fun.
me see if I can meet up the expectations. But I think
okay.
because I'm just going to be free flowing in my conversation.
Absolutely.
Happy to be here.
So I'm going to shoot the first question.
Yeah.
So Yuvraj, we know that your background is from the defense and you were in the army first before joining the corporate world.
Yeah.
What has been your journey from army to the corporate world, that shift? What has it been like? What has been your learnings? And what did you carry forward from army background into the corporate world?
I consider myself as a backstreet boy, a person from a tier 2, tier 3 city and who traveled, worked with the different corporates in a bigger city. So I think that somewhere that I am always very, very proud of, that I did my education in a place called Balia, which is near Banaras. And my initial education was there. And after that, I came to Allahabad University. Can you believe that, just because I wanted to study in a good department wherein it has a great diversity and a great professors, I took psychology as a subject and I did my graduation in psychology and political science from University of Allahabad. Great times. And I was fortunate to get into a hostel which is known for churning out civil servants. I think it's right from early 50s till now. I think this hostel is called Muir Hostel, Dr. A. N. Jha Hostel. It had 150 seats. Getting admission in that hostel was something like getting admission at that point of time in St. Stephen's or anywhere. And Allahabad is considered to be Oxford of East, very, very high in terms of churning out great talent. So I managed to get admission there. Managed to get admission because it was all self-driven. I reached out to the superintendent, the social secretary, wrote an application in tutti-frutti English and gave it to them. And I said, I see a student here who has got 64% in 12th and I have 66%. He has got an interview call. I haven't got interview call. Is there something which something has gone wrong? I think they were very generous. They liked this initiative of somebody coming 17, 18 years of age. And then I went and did the interview and I got selected to that hostel. So that hostel stay for 3.5 years, Allahabad University Psychology Advanced Studies Center basically shaped me. So from science, maths to Allahabad to do graduation in psychology. That's how the journey started in terms of education.
But why did you pick psychology?
I told you, I think that psychology was a department wherein you find 60% girls, 40% boys. I wanted to study in an environment which is polished, English medium. I was a Hindi medium student till 12th. Initial 7-8 years, I did my convent education in Balia. But unfortunately, that city didn't have a education beyond 5th or 6th in convent. One had to get into a government school. So the passion of getting into studying something which is more English focused, getting into a department which was elite department, getting into elite hostel, all worked.
All of that.
And then I joined this hostel in 3 years. And everybody who enters this hostel would always think of becoming a civil servant, because in case you are appearing for any of the exam, you have to be hidden in your room. You should not be talking about which examination are you preparing. And finally, it so happened that I did my first exam of my career, Combined Defense Services, made it. My father was very happy that I'm getting into this because I've been always very, very social in my behavior and had got into student politics. I contested election. So somewhere people back home were thinking, ki ye ja kahan raha hai? I think what is happening? We had sent him to do something which will keep us proud in terms of his education. So my father was very happy. So I think a bit prepared, but also a bit unprepared to jump into a career fray. I got into civil combined defense services, which was a UPSC examination. I had appeared for NDA in the early stages of class 11th. I couldn't make it. So that a bit of bug was always there with me that I couldn't really make it to that examination. I was an NCC cadet. I used to strive to get into Republic Day parade with my subedars and all in a smaller city like Balia. So somewhere at the back of mind, it was there that I should wear a uniform. And it so happened that first attempt I qualified and I was at 21 years of age, I got commissioned as a second lieutenant. And so that's how the journey started, and I distinctly remember when I went for my selection board in Bhopal, Sultania Infantry Lines. Can you believe a boy from a small city landing there in a bus wherein there are 70, 80 students, and most of these kids were from a good background. Half of them were Fauji's kids, some of them were DPS educated, Delhi, Bombay, different places, and we are coming from a small city, still struggling to really converse well in English and all that stuff. And I was very surprised that it was a batch of around 75 people and only 2 people got selected in that batch. One was me and there was another good friend, Ajmer Singh, who is currently a journalist from Chandigarh. So both of us got selected, and I think that was the high of life. I think that, in fact, at that point of time, I was also seeing my wife. I was very happy, and that is how the journey started of a professional career, so to say. So I think that's why I call myself as a backstreet boy who has done a lot of things independently without having too much of a support of people, and great support from the parents, a great support from the family, a joint family of a small town. And today I think that journey has been, if you look at in the rear view, you feel that it had all been interesting, and every stage, every year, every career, every profession, every stint has given huge learnings, and your ability to take learnings from everything had been immense. And I think that's what hold people in good stead, and perhaps I've been happy and lucky for that. If you get into a profession at the age of 21, you would realize that you have started very early. And when you get commissioned as an army officer at the age of 21, first incident for me was that, in army you have to be physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit. If you are fit in all these three aspects, you will really, really enjoy and do well, right? It's not that if you are only good in physicals, you can run 30 kilometers, you can do a lot of push-ups, you can pick up weights, you can show a lot of physical perseverance, you'll succeed. You also need to be intellectually very, very sharp, because army and armed forces has a lot of examinations. There's a lot of academic involved. You have to perform that way. Emotional trauma continues to happen because you are away from family, you are posted in remote areas. So unless there's a combination of all these three, it's very difficult to have a great career in armed forces. I was physically average plus. Intellectually, I think that I was good. I could pass examinations, do well there. Emotionally, I was very, very strong. I think because parents had made me independent right since beginning. All this combination, I realized that if you can figure out your mojo around these three areas, you can succeed in any situation. So when you go to 21 years of age, leading troops in a difficult areas, after 1 year only I got posted. After 3 months, I got posted to J&K, Kashmir. That was 93, and 93 was disturbed area for Kashmir. So I think 3 years spent there, and it brought the completely man out of a boy in that situation. And I remember when I reached regiment, I was told that you are nominated for a commando course, which had to happen after 2 months in Belgaum. And I always felt that I have finished my academy training, I'm back to the regiment. Now life will be a bit thanda. I think not too much of a physical buggery. But when this news came to me, it was I was quite depressed. Ki yaar, abhi to kiya tha. Again, commando is a 35 days course in Belgaum. And if you have seen that movie Prahar of Nana Patekar of olden days.
I remember
So I was
that now.
nominated for that program. And while I was doing that program for 35 days, every 24 hours you will think of giving up. Because first week you run 10 kilometers, second week you run 20 kilometers, third week you run 30 kilometers, fourth week you run 40 kilometers, and then you do navigations, right? In the night you start, morning you finish. So building resilience, independence, and also never say die spirit sort of a thing basically got inculcated very, very early in life. And I think that it all works. When you're in the corporate world, it all works. That's how my journey started, if I have to
Hearing you, I just feel that in India, every youngster should go through this journey.
I think that I agree. Because over a period of time, I think kids have got great education. Kids have got very, very protected environment, which is great. I think why should not one person have it? But independence of thought, resilience, and also ability to hold your own ground, confidence, work with diverse set of people is something which is taught in army. In the initial 2 years, 3 years, if everybody spends, it will be great. I personally believe people keep talking about what is this recruitment, Agniveer. People oppose it, but I say it's a great thing for the country. People go for 4 years and serve the country and come back. I don't know. I don't think everybody will become, unemployed. It will make great personalities. People will learn values. People would understand discipline. And what you need in society, you need people who are youngsters who can lead the light in terms of the value-driven society, work culture. So I've always been in favor of people getting exposed to this. Why do you do NCC? When you take kids in class 8th, 9th, and 10th and make them do NCC, it's basically an element of exposing them to the disciplined life. And when you are not hesitant in doing it in the initial phase when they are kids, what's wrong in really letting people have a couple of years of stint in the early phase of career? So I think having NCC and not having this is a dichotomy. It's a contradiction. So I think that if the right sentiments are there, right ways are there, people should get trained, and the youngsters should definitely have an exposure to this. It makes clearly boys real men.
So one of the other things that come to my mind, since you're from armed forces, most organizations now are taking people who retire from army into administrative roles, trying to build a career for them, coming back into corporate. Does Make My Trip do any of that? Do you have people from?
Yes, I think yes, we have. And I think overall corporate, if I say, Priyanka, this pattern has started.
Yes. It's looked at one of the ways of doing diversity,
Yes.
right? Get a diverse workforce.
I think that my batchmates, many of my friends who passed out with me and they left army in their later part of their career, I think most of them have got a decent job. It's basically a sort of a mindset wherein people say that these fellows can only do the admin
Administrative
jobs
roles.
better, but they can be a great presenter, they can be great in terms of training, they can be great in terms of sales, they can be great in terms of corporate communication, they can be great in terms of public relations. I think that they can be great in terms of sustainability initiatives. I have a colleague of mine who's Major Rajneesh Sharma. He handles sustainability, corporate social responsibility, administration facilities. A very bright, sharp individual and does a fabulous job. So I think they can be used in different role, because I personally believe there can't be a better management education than spending time in army.
Army, yes.
I think that you can go for 2 years management education. I did my MBA from IMT Ghaziabad after coming out of armed forces. But I feel that my learnings come from my those 5 years or 6 years of spending time. So in case somebody has spent that time, comes out very, very well equipped to handle diverse situations in the corporate world, in the social sector.
So you think, is it happening because our institutes are only doing programs like that for them, which is taking them towards the administrative route? Maybe you should have shorter courses in institutes which teach them ESG or teaches them these other sides. So you think, is that an issue, and which is why they're getting into only administrative
No, so
stuff?
I think there are courses. So all these IMs have 6 months courses for the
Right.
people who are
Yes,
coming
yes.
out of
Right.
army, and they do a general management course. So
Is
they
it
are
general
taught, yeah, it's a
management?
general management course. It is. I don't think they are trained after coming out of army for administrative work. They are taught complete general management. Any job which has complexity, any job which has interface with diverse set of people, any job which is unstructured, any job which is considered by normal MBAs as something which is, we will not do it. I think you put a Fauji in it, he will bring the best out
Great.
of that function. And that is how they operate. And I know Amazon has a lot of guys in the logistics,
Right.
last mile, Accenture,
Right.
many organizations. MakeMyTrip also, we don't have too many opportunities there, but I think that we have, two of us are there doing important role in the organization, and there are some more people who are exposed to this type of environment. Yeah.
So, Yuvraj, my next question is really, you've had this fantastic 5 years with the army. It's obviously shaped your personality to be what it is. We army people are known to be disciplined, trusting. There's a lot of teamwork and collaboration which happens when you're in that space and that area. How are you taking some of these learnings into the corporate world to build the organizations you're working with?
Sure. I think there are immense learnings which can be taken from the armed forces. And I think it's important for you to really contextualize it in the organizations which you're working. I'll share a small story with you which will give you an idea that how mindset operates. And I keep telling this to the youngsters in the organization. There are two things which I got it from there. In army, appraisals don't happen the way it happens in the corporate world, wherein you are preparing, presenting, talking, what have you done and all. When I came in my first year, I saw people running around and preparing in the month of March for their appraisals. And I said, what is this happening? I was in Asian Paints, a great organization where I learned a lot. 9 years I spent there. I said that appraisal time, so I think that you need to present what all have you done on your KPIs, KRA and all. So I said that why should you and I do it? I think it's manager's job to really know what we have done, and what I have done, my manager should know. So they said, no, it doesn't happen. Manager has many things to really do. So perhaps it's important for you to also present. And I came from the thought process that, my leader decides about me, what am I good at, he gives me a feedback. I don't need to tell him that point of it. And later on, perhaps I also adapted how you need to really be prepared and all. But in army, you used to just meet your commanding officer. He'll tell you your pen picture, give you a sheet of paper. He would have observed you over a period of time, give feedback, you will sign and move out. There's no as such debating of being happy or unhappy, because finally you have done what you were expected to do. That was something which I realized, that it's important to give feedback to people on a regular basis. And it's also important to leave it to the leaders to be at peace with yourself. Now it's important for the leaders also to be far more trusting, mature and all that stuff, so that people can start following them. But for me, it was the first learning that your leader is the one who will make your career, and you should have ultimate trust on a leader. I followed it, and I keep telling it to people. You may get good or bad leader, but that's not the rule. That may be an exception. Second thing, what I learned was that your alignment with the organizational goal has to be very organic and immediate. In army, nobody tells you after wearing a uniform, hey, what's your KRAs? What are your KRAs? What are your goals? What are you going to really do? You wear a uniform, you are protecting the country, and wherever you're deployed, your role is defined. And if you are doing that, then you are not really being reminded of mission of the organization. So other learning was that whichever organization I have joined, I worked with Asian Paints for 9 years. Then I came to Oberoi Hotels for 4 years. Then I went to Pepsi for around 4.5 years. Now I am here for last 10.5 years. I have never had a problem in aligning with what organization is trying to do. It had been a very quick alignment. Maybe right or wrong, that's debatable. But as a follower or somebody who's working for the organization, your alignment has to be very, very strong and quick. You should see sense in what. So that's another thing which came as a learning for me. I always felt that when you do your job, you are good, better, or best in a very relative term. The moment I start thinking that, hey, I have exceeded expectations on the scale of 1 to 5, then I think that you are setting yourself into a compartment wherein you have a view about your own performance. And if human potential has to be looked at, I always felt that you are only meeting expectations of your human potential, which in a corporate word you can say 3 out of 5. And in today's word, people would say 3 out of 5 is not great. I think that I have done such good work. I need to be 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. I always felt that, hey, I could have done even far better than what I have done when I end the year. When I look at my checklist, I see there are so many things which I have done, but I don't think that I have done it the way it should have really been done.
Or it's not had the impact it should
It
have
has
had.
not had an impact. So it's not being self-critique. It's being basically very, very self-aware of your delivery and work. And that drives a sense of attachment with the organization. That drives a bit of vulnerability. That drives a feeling that you are not bigger than the organization. Organization is bigger than you, and whatever you have contributed, you could have still done better. So I would say I have met expectations. And then when you as my leader tell me that, hey, you have exceeded, then
Far
imagine,
exceeded.
I am so thrilled. When you say you have far, far exceeded expectation, then I'm absolutely on the cloud 9.
Yeah, you
But if
completely hit that high.
But if you start yourself thinking that I have exceeded expectation, he says that you have met expectation, you'll be depressed. If he says that you have exceeded expectation, you'll be okay. Not many times people will say that you have far, far exceeded expectation. So I think another army lesson was that you do your bit. Trust your leaders and always don't get into relative comparisons with the people. So your positioning in the organization, your performance in the organization is very relative. Your competition is yourself. If you feel that you have not done well, you need to put in your best foot forward. So that was another learning which I realized, and I still keep telling people that leave certain things to others. Army also taught to work with people who are there with you. When you join a regiment, it's not that you join a regiment and you start saying that this fellow is not working, I need to work with a different set of people.
Oh, I need to hire.
I need to hire.
Or I will need to change this person from my team.
Absolutely.
Just please delete this person from my team.
I think that you go to Gorkha regiment, you'll get Gorkhas. You'll get Kumaon regiment, you'll get Kumaonis. You'll go to Bihar regiment, Jat regiment, Sikh regiment. It has its own composition.
Correct.
And a set of people are given to you and you have to get the best out of them. When you go to corporate world, a lot of times people will find an alibi for doing well or not doing well. People will start looking at people who are there within their team.
I don't have the right team.
I don't have the right team.
So I couldn't deliver.
And by the way, I have not hired people from my previous teams unless, they have been remotely connected with me. No, not many of my direct reports, not any of my direct reports would have joined my future teams, because Army taught me that you are given resource, you please handle it and get the best out of them. So, and this drives what? This drives huge amount of trust. Somebody who was written off by the previous manager, you come and start evaluating that person with your own lens. And imagine the type of camaraderie, loyalty you will drive from this individual who might be seeing an opportunity of really proving himself or herself again. So Ami again taught that to work with the people who are given to you. ensure that you are leveraging their diversity and different thought process, and don't get into finding an alibi for what you have not been able to do and looking at changing people. That was another interesting learning. Perhaps I think it's still, I find it very, very relevant.
It's a
For me.
fantastic one. I think it's a huge learning for the corporate world.
Yes.
Specifically when it comes to diverse perspective
Yes.
and acceptance of the diverse people that you're going to work with, and not feeling vulnerable in a new position, and feels that, oh, I need to carry something that I got comfortable with, and you're open to being out of your comfort zone and relearning and unlearning. And I think that point is brilliant that I heard from you.
Shikha, I think Army teaches you drills. And drills are what? Drills basically help you develop your muscle memory. That in certain situations you'll react like this. It does not tell you that always situations will be like this. You go for a battlecraft drill, they'll tell you, okay, fine, you give a cover fire, somebody moves from other side and all that. But those are very, very simulated environments.
Exactly.
When you get into a zone wherein you are really in conflict, whether in Kashmir or on the borders, it is not that the terrain is same or people are same or the environment is same or the weather is same. Things change, but your muscle memory works. You operate. You know that your weapon has to be handled with the left hand or the right hand, what you should look at as a milestone. So that muscle memory creation in the corporate world, again, really helps you do certain things with some principles, but also be innovative. Innovative in the sense, I know the basics, but I'll innovate. It helps you challenge the status quo. It helps you look at things differently. In my career, many places I would have said, why do we do this? Suppose a person has resigned in the organization. Is there a need for a person to complete his notice period? If that's a process, you are carrying somebody for a longer period who might be less productive. Disconnected, might also be creating a bit of negativity in the system. So how can you provide flexibility to the leaders to decide that whether you need a person to serve the notice period or not? So we were very, very flexible about this. We looked at the leave process. The leave has to be a principle of 24 days or 30 days. In MakeMyTrip, when we merged MakeMyTrip, GoIBO and Redbus, three organizations had very different leave policies.
Obviously.
We came back with a solution that will have an uncapped leave policy. Let people take leave when the managers are in agreement and there's a requirement. And let's not put a limit of 24 days or 18 days or 30 days. And we realize that today consumption of leave remains same. Because the fact is people come to work, not to take leave. An organization needs to really come out of that mindset of doing policing. If you have evolved workforce, you have to give them freedom to operate and you have to treat them as an adult. So in our case, people take leave whenever it's needed. There'll be some people who will be defined, but handle it as an exception rather than as a rule.
Making it a rule for everyone, that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for me, I think in the organization also, my co-founder Rajesh also would say, why should managers sign the reimbursement? Let everybody sign and take the reimbursement. They are supposed to be responsible for their own signatures
when they're
and etiquettes. So I think it's important, and it again comes from the armed forces, that how do you cut the chase, get to the basics, remove non-value adding activities and be innovative with the practices. So I think all this comes from the training in forces, and you willy-nilly apply that. Last but not the least is that your respect for people is very important. In forces, you will work with people who are 8 pass, 10 pass, but they are your buddies. They carry weapons with you, they carry your radio set, your radio operators, and they are in conflict zone with you. And you have to trust them and you have to respect them for what they bring to the table. So again, respecting people for their skill sets, leveraging their skill sets, again comes from the armed forces, rather than only looking at people, okay, fine, this fellow can do, he's an engineer or she's an engineer, can do this type of a work. Somebody has come late, somebody has not worked well, somebody has been lagging behind in work and performance, so you start losing respect. So I think respect for individuals brings best out of people, because that doesn't compromise their pride. And if people are respectful, you drive pride within the individuals and huge amount of loyalty. So I think that was again which came from the forces training. Yeah.
So, I want to tell you something funny that when I was in class 7th, Yahoo tab naya naya aaya tha, and I had to open up my account. My account was called Dream 90 Countries at yahoo.co.in.
Dream?
90 countries. And how did I choose? I deleted all the countries that had tension or any kind of restriction for me to travel. I just sort of thought it and researched, and I created this. Now, why am I sharing this story? Because most of the youngsters are, dreaming to cover 100 countries now, and travel influencers have really opened up this idea among youngsters that travel is a real job. Travel is the real dream that you can bring to reality. Uh, you are CHRO for MMT, Make My Trip, something that everybody is connected to. What is your input to the youngsters who are dreaming to travel 100 countries, dreaming to really learn and experience the world? What would you like to share with them in terms of the importance of traveling, but also some do's and don'ts when it comes to dreaming about traveling?
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think it's an interesting one. And, I think as in Make My Trip, interesting part is that, when people join the organization, a lot of people join with this thought that, I think we'll get to travel a lot. Whether you get to travel a lot or not, your orientation for the traveling becomes very, very high. Your desire to really figure out different places, different countries goes to the next level because people are talking about travel, right? Morning till evening in different conversations, you are talking about the customers, where people are traveling more, what type of hotels are selling large and all that stuff. So as a Make My Trip, a place which can give you all solutions for travel, right from your cab to your stay to flights to the guides, everything. I think one-stop solution for all travel needs. And this really resonates, and this also is seen with the people who are in the organization. I've seen many people who have joined the organization after 6-7 years of working. They join within 6 months or 8 months, you'll say their first abroad trip would have really happened. Because when you join here, you understand that it's not so difficult. I think you may be very, very comfortable outside because the infrastructure can be far superior than what you have. While in our country it is growing, doing well, but ours is a very large, diverse country. In different countries, infrastructure is very interesting. You can go and travel. So first thing what we always feel very good about is that a lot of people who join, very quickly they go for their international trip. Other thing what we feel very good about is that as a company, we promote travel within the workforce also, right? We'll keep telling people that which are the long weekends. We'll also internally circulate some of the good deals what we might have really had. We have a portal internally wherein people can book travel for themselves at a reasonable price with some discounted rate. So that basically helps. Now, I have seen changes because of this. I personally know that my first travel international was after working for around 8 to 10 years, right? Because it was mostly domestic. I realized that going out, meeting people, uh, opens your vistas, it opens your horizons, and you understand how the civilization works. You're learning what you have done in your 10th, 12th, or early phases. You can see that getting related with wherever you travel, right? You'll read about different latitudes and longitudes, how the timing changes. You'll read about different landscapes.
Historic places that you would have learned.
Absolutely, in the history class, 10th, 12th, everywhere. When you go and travel, it's so easy to really relate with what you have studied. And you suddenly start feeling that, hey, whatever I read and studied, it has so much of a relevance. And when you come back with stories, and that's what I tell people, that when you go and travel, come back with stories of your own travel. If you come back with the stories of your travel, it will stay with you. And you'll always be inspired to travel more at a later point of time. So I think biggest education happens by travel. I only tell people, and I'll advise this, that if you are traveling, don't travel for the tick box exercise. Don't say that, from here I flew down to Dubai, had a 4 hours layover, I went out and came back, and then I went to European countries, covered so many airports. That's not the travel. Go deep in a country. If you have 7 to 10 days, explore various aspects of that country, come back enriched with that culture.
Discover the roots of that
Discover the
country,
roots of the country. Discover, and you'll find that many interesting aspects of a country only if you go deeper. Go to a tier 2 town of that city, go to a tier 3 town of the city, and you'll realize a lot of connectedness with the Indian culture. If you go and only travel to the countries and cover their capital and the best known places, perhaps that's not the way.
So that's being a tourist. So not being a tourist, but being a traveler.
Yes, you are not getting educated.
Yeah,
You are not
yeah.
getting educated, and travel is a huge amount of education. People go, and I also advise people that do your video with commentary. Don't go and just see the place and come back thinking that in the night I will write. Do a running commentary with your video. This is this place. I have come
This
here
is
on
where I
so and so
am.
date. This is where I am. This is how it looks like. So many places I have seen. So somewhere record your experience in a video, and with a visual surround. You would love to really see it at a later point of time. And it's such a powerful use of technology to really connect back with these places once again. I think that so from that point of view, it's a big education, and I personally say that save money for travel. Save money for travel. At least ensure that you are doing 1 or 2 week 10 days trip in a year, and also you are utilizing your vacations, which are extended weekends, for traveling places which are around within the country, sort of a thing. So I think it's an interesting way of learning, because uh, we could not really do it. In our childhood, we'll go to a couple of places, we'll go to Nanihal, we'll go to some other places and come back and study and look forward for our 2 months of vacation. Times have changed, and I keep telling this to my son also, that must experience the place, local cuisine, local travel, meet new people. You would be far more informed, because कहते हैं ना कि there is a couplet which says, डिग्रियां तो तालीम के खर्चे की रसीदें हैं, डिग्रियां तो तालीम के खर्चे की रसीदें हैं, इल्म तो वो है जो किरदार में झलकता है. Means whatever you spend on degree, those are only receipts of your education. But how it has affected you only comes out by looking at your character.
The impact that it has made.
And that character gets built by experiencing different things at different places, meeting different people. So I think that's
Beautiful. So beautiful, Yuvraj. I mean, loved what you said. And travel is also on everybody's mind for multiple reasons. But when you are talking to people in the workplace, is there anything that you advise them not to do?
Very, very interesting question. I think that as Make My Trip, our CSR team, our Make My Trip Foundation team works very hard on our sustainability initiatives. Fortunately, the younger generation is far more sensitive about taking care of the environment. It's our generation, perhaps, which needs to be more educated about it. Imagine you are going to places which can't handle so much of a traffic. You have seen Nainital, Shimla, places getting clogged, and people are reaching there, hotels are not accepting people. How do you ensure that when you are going to a place, you are not abusing that place, and how you can really travel sustainably, use local food, stay in a local homestay, learn local languages, pick up local handicraft, talk to local people. Don't try to only shop in a branded stores when you go to a bigger places. Try to pick up local things, and it finally results into a great economy revival for those areas, creating livelihoods, creating sustainability, and then people start welcoming you. Because vibes would not be great if you go to a place, say Mashuri, Shimla, Dharamshala, and locals look at you as somebody who's an intruder, who has come to
spoil the environment.
Come to spoil the environment. If they see that you are coming and having some food in a local restaurant, if they know that you are buying, even if it's a small plaque or something from the local artisan, people would see that you are adding value to the livelihood. So my do's are clearly live sustainably and travel sustainably wherever you go, meet local people, and ensure that you are coming back with great experience from that location and not bad memories for people who are left behind in terms of local citizens. So I think that that's very, very important as a do's of this. Second do's is travel light. I think it's important to uh, keep yourself slightly relaxed. Treat your vacations as something wherein you are going to be yourself. If you want to carry a flip flop or a nice slip-ons, that's fine. Travel comfortably and enjoy the place. That will again help you not be worried about things. Otherwise, people carry very expensive stuff when they go for the vacation. They are most of the time busy thinking that how to take care of them. So I think traveling light, traveling comfortably, taking care of the local environment, traveling sustainably, connecting with the locals, creating a video blog of the place. All this is something which I feel would be a great way of really ensuring that people are enjoying travel.
So, Yuvraj, the next one I want to hear from you is on talent retention. Is that really a challenge in your industry? One is the travel industry. There are lots of other travel organizations that are existing and maybe coming up new. There are so many startups, not necessarily travel, but where your teams must be getting attracted to, right? So, is that a challenge? How are you dealing with it? Tell us on that.
I think that before talent retention, we should try to understand the market. And if we understand the market, our acceptance for some of the stuff in the corporate may improve, or our acceptability about some of the changes which are dynamic in nature would be better than what it is. So 30 years back, people used to be in the organization for long periods, right?
Right.
Gone are the days when brick and mortar old institutions will have people who will join and retire, right? After that, a phase came wherein people started moving within the industries. Like somebody who's a chemist or the manufacturing guy would move from one manufacturing industry to another manufacturing industry. Somebody who was an engineer will move from one organization to other organization. So that still had a bit of limits on talent movement, and retentions would be better. It had its own problem in terms of stagnant workforce, problems in terms of reduced innovation, problems in terms of organizations being very inward looking in their processes. From there, you reach to a stage wherein organizations are far wider in terms of what they offer. There are different type of organizations which are in different space. You have internet tech startups, you have social entrepreneurships, you have large scale organizations, you have MSMEs, you have entrepreneurs, you have education. So I think currently the canvas for the talent is huge. That is first point. And second is, if the canvas is huge, what has started happening is that talent pool also for the organizations have increased. Now people are not hesitant in hiring from a different industry. Today, if I have to hire from a manufacturing industry for my organization, I will figure out some roles and I'll say, okay, fine, process industry guy would be great in terms of process. He would be very disciplined. He would also have sharp understanding of continuous improvement concepts. I need to get him into one of my operations and one of my processes. So what happens now? The talent has a scope of moving from one type of an industry to different type of an industry.
So, a lot more
A
opportunity.
lot more opportunities. If that be so, and on top of it, you can't really rule out the way education has boomed in the industry. While we can debate that is education the best in our country with the help of mushrooming colleges, but leaving that aside, if that be so, your acceptability and the mindset of looking at talent retention should be different and should not be same what you used to really track in the past. 10%, 15%, 20%, put your percentage there and try to retain people. So if I can hire people from hotel, I can hire people from service industry, I can hire people from social sector, then I should be ready to also accept that my people also can go to different industry.
True.
And that, when the moment that realization comes in, another realization or the equation what everyone should really look at is that how much of the tenure is an optimal tenure. In a fast moving organization, what used to get delivered earlier in 6 months' time, today perhaps gets delivered in a quarter, right? Because it's very, very fast. Market doesn't wait. At least in our type of a setup, that is how it really happens. So do you look at people spending 10 years with you? Do you look at people spending 8 years with you, 5 years with you, or 3 years with you? Or if it's 3 years, is that the best which is coming out of those individuals? And if somebody stays for 3 years, fully committed, does a great stuff, in a normal speed, it is equivalent to 6 years, if I say, in terms of productivity, delivery. So it's my mindset, which also needs to really be changed, at how much of a tenure is a good tenure. And I'm not going to answer that how much of the tenure is a good tenure. For me, it is fine. If that is the way, what we need to do is, or what personally I believe in, is that I have different cohorts wherein I look at retention. I would have a category of employees whom we call top talent or a bunker employees. We call it bunker because we say that these are the guys who are not only top talent in terms of capability, but this group can also have people who have great institutional knowledge. This group can also have people who are very loyal to the organization. And these are not necessarily the topmost talent in the organization in terms of capability. And if I look at these bunker category of employees, I would say that my 15 to 20% of the organization should be such that if there is a shelling happening in a typical army parlance, and I have a bunker wherein only I can take 20% people, who are these people whom I'll take them in bunker so that I can resurrect the operations and business back from scratch rather than really trying to do incremental building. So you look at your talent very differently and identify right talent to be retained. So that's one cut what you look at. And if you are doing well in that, I think it is reasonably okay because organization is not getting affected. Then if the opportunity is immense, your speed of movement is very fast, your categorization is very different. Whom do you want to retain? Whom do you still consider that can really be compromised? While as a HR professional, I should say anybody who joins the organization should really be in the organization for as long as the person is enjoying. But the fact is that organization also needs to enjoy. Somebody is being in the organization. So it's a give and take. It's a very, very competitive environment. So retention, while it is a challenge, but I also believe there's also a huge amount of talent available in tier 2, tier 3 cities, different organizations. It's only your mindset. How do you get the right set of people? If I have to talk about people changing jobs, I only tell people that, in my sessions with my team members or within my own organization, that, hey, don't change organization just because you are getting some money additional. All obviously people will not take you out and hire you on a lower salary. That's a lure, that's a carrot you will always get. But don't lose on an opportunity of creating your own story. And stories are not made in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Stories are made over a sustained period of time. If a story is written about a place, about an individual, and it is a great hit, it is not short-lived. It's an experience of long time. So if you see that in my CV, I have 5 roles done, that's not your strong CV. Your strong CV is that every role has a story which can really tell the individual that what you created there, and now you move to create a new story for yourself. So if you create your own stories, you are okay. And stories are not made in a shorter span. Spend reasonable time. And when I'm saying this, I mean to say that, you have to look at the cycle of your learning, cycle of creating an impact in the organization, ensuring that you have been recognized for what you have done, because all this brings you out of an organization as a far better person than what you were earlier. And when I say that 5 years in armed forces, I have stories to tell to people. And if I have stories to tell to people, then I have an ability then I can be confident, then I can be committed, then I can also really engage people. So leave organization sooner or later, that's your decision, but ensure that you have a
Story to
tell to people that, that's what you did wherever you were. And as an organization, be very sure that you are holding on to your bunker employees who can really build the organizations back. There'll be some level of people who would always be transitioning.
Right.
But that should not affect your core. And there is a social factor in that, Priyanka. If you look at education in the country in terms of a quality, on one side you see there are very, very minuscule percent of people who are affluent and can afford higher education, right? My judgment or my assessment says that all these institutes wherein people would have 10 lakh, 15 lakh, 20 lakh per year as a fee, at least 50 to 60% students take education loan to do that education. And they come from a middle class background wherein they have very different requirements. They get into a job to get their ROIs and their education loans cleared faster. So if you have spent 15 lakhs and you end up with a job which is 12 lakhs, you would always look at moving out to get that ROI better. So it's not that people will not leave, but as an organization you secure that and be content with the fact that it has got a lot to do with the social issues when it comes to retention of talent or attrition of people.
Beautiful. I love that part on create your own story before you decide whether you've done
Yes,
enough for the
yes,
organization
absolutely.
and created that impact. That brings me also of wanting to know from you on Gen Z a little bit. There is a certain norm that gets talked about on how Gen Zs are in organizations. What is your view on how to deal with Gen Zs in organizations?
Yeah, when I was young, people who were senior to me, they used to say that youngsters are different. And I'm sure that when they were young, their seniors must have been saying that they are very different. We all are different from our previous generations. But basic human values and the needs remain same. Maslow's hierarchy of need continues to be true for everyone still, right? Your need for recognition, your need for self-actualization, your need for personal safety, all that remains same. If that be so, Gen Zs may not be very different. The only fact is that they look at things from their own lens. If they feel that, job is not my end of life, job is not my life, job is a part of my life, then the lens changes. I perhaps might have been thinking that, job is my life. I need to really work. My parents used to think that way. I went for the first exam in my life of combined defense services. I got selected and there was so much of insecurity that I said that I'll take this job rather than waiting to become a civil servant, which I don't know whether it would have been there or not. Today's kids can really take that risk. So they feel that I need to travel. I need to enjoy my hobbies. I know some kids who do a lot of work. They're working in the corporate world, but they have a parallel hobby. Somebody is a rapper, somebody is a musician, somebody is a writer, somebody is a traveler. So they look at life, work as a part of a life. We used to look at life,
Work as life.
work as life, and that is what we are. So if that be lens, it's very clear that they'll operate in a very different way. Organizations try to critique them. Organizations start categorizing them in a very different way. Whereas the fact is, the word society, organization progresses only in case it has a new wheels to travel. And a new wheels to travel for the organization can be Gen Z's ways of thinking. So they need to really be treated as agents of change in the organization. They should be treated as somebody who can really show a very different light to the organization and people who think very differently, people who are very differently wired. Why is it so that everybody very lovingly and affectionately says that, hey, my son challenges me a lot. My daughter, my God, I think that she is very different. They are very intelligent. They are very tech savvy. They are very sharp in terms of their decision making. They have a point of view. If at home you love and you flaunt about it, why do you need to be hypocrite in terms of thinking that if you have the similar generation at the workplace, which is out to challenge you and think differently and bring in a different perspective, becomes a matter of concern? I think it's important for the leaders, organizations to look at them as mediums for change, agents for change, and ride on their thought process, ride on their innovativeness. In fact, I have launched a study within the organization
Okay.
to talk about future of work, and the team is working. I said that you guys are working on this project. Don't come back and tell me that this is how things have happened. Think that today the world has, uh,
Come to a
evolved
place.
and come to the place, and it has started its journey, and how things will be very different
In the future.
in the future, because then you will think very differently. Does it really mean that you will give people budgets to do hobbies? Would you like to really, instead of appreciating an employee, appreciate parents? Would you allow people to get their girlfriends to the office and meet up with them in a social circle? Or would you like to think that things had been very different in the past? It has to be similar. It should be in a sense, or it should be like a evolved version of that. No, it can't be that. It can be very, very different. So, for my views on Gen Z is that they need to be harnessed for better energy for the organization, and that's what they say. I can finish work in 3 hours.
Why should I wait for another
You can't do your
8
work
hours
for
or 9
8
hours?
hours. Then why do you want me to really spend more time?
Yeah.
And that's where the thought goes, that they can be far more productive with their sense
Limited
of
time, in the limited time
yes,
that
they want to do many things. Let them.
yeah,
let
and
them
they want to do more
Yeah,
things in a
yes,
day
yes.
than many others.
The good part is that they are not demanding in terms of comforts. The way they used to go to college, they come to the workplace, and they feel that this is a place where they can enjoy, make friends, work, and then perhaps go back whenever they want, slightly earlier, come back slightly late. I think that if you can take care of all these psychology of and the wiring and the mindset of them, I think that organization can be great.
So, Yuvraj, I'm going to ask my favorite question linked to a favorite topic. Diversity, equity, inclusion is a topic every organization is really putting a lot of efforts on. I love traveling, and what I've been experiencing is that a lot of women who are very young have started exploring solo travels. So, has MMT done something extra to make sure that when they are doing some kind of travel guidelines, are there any specific travel guidelines for women, for senior citizens, for PWDs, for LGBTQI community, so that there is a genuine inclusion when it comes to travel? And travel has always been focused on men because they are also the ones who have been traveling more so far. But
Or at least the planning is left to men for sure.
Yeah, and things are now changing. And being a solo traveler, I have come a long way, but I see a lot of early 20 girls coming in solo to travel, and they are left with not much of pre-information on a lot of planning. Has MMT done something that is taking care of this aspect?
So, I think first is that women have been traveling, right? And they have been traveling in huge numbers. And the planning for the travel, when you say that men have been traveling more and they are the ones who plan, the overall study and understanding says that travel decisions, planning decisions to a great extent, where to go, how to go, when to go, and all that stuff is still driven by the women and the family, right? Men basically manage the logistics, and that is how it works. And travel, vacation is one of the most engaged, evolved, and involved decision making in the family.
Family, yeah.
Besides some of the other areas, maybe travel is a family decision, unless it's a business travel wherein a person is traveling. Other point is that Make My Trip is an aggregator platform, right? It has huge responsibility, and it provides personalized attention to all the people who travel on a vacation from our portal, and they book from our side. But having said that, I think overall travel ecosystem has also evolved. If you look at the cabs, the road cabs, whether it's different aggregators, there's a better sense of safety, security, and gadgets and information what people have are available to use for the crisis. Hotels have become sensitive about women's safety, uh, providing them a room which is on the first floor, closer to the elevators, and a dedicated women floor and all that stuff. Flights also have the similar stuff. So I think the overall ecosystem around travel is doing its bit to ensure there's a safety of travel. And can't forget the overall administrative governmental support around women travel. I think there have been incidents in the past. We are a huge country. There'll be some freaky incidents here and there, but imagine from last decade or so now, definitely things are improving, and there are many women who are traveling independently. In our case, I think we have solo travelers packages which people can really buy and go. We have dedicated people who sell you the packages, right? We have holiday experts. Again, we have around 800 to 1000 women who work from home, and they are part of our ecosystem. They are called holiday experts. They are the ones who basically sell the platform to you or your vacation. They are the ones who really advise you, counsel you, and help you curate your own whole platform or the vacation. They are the ones who again continue to be in touch with you, and they are one-to-one connected in case you have any problems. I think our helplines, our teams which are involved in working with you are are always available for people to reach out, and we do get escalations, and uh, it's not trivial. We get good escalations from people who get stuck at different locations. And when I'm saying not trivial in the sense, these are important issues. It may happen 1 in 10,000 tickets sold. But ecosystem operates in a certain way. You may get stuck. You reach to a place late and perhaps you find that hotel doesn't have a room wherein it was booked. There can be certain communication issues. So there are teams which are on ground, in the office, in various teams who can be reached out. And I think that our overall customer experience ratings say that we are very, very prompt in solving all the cases, even if we are not directly connected. And see the situation, we are bringing everybody together. We are not owning any of these properties, but still, since I have sold you the ticket, and this has happened in the COVID, this has happened when the Go Air went down. There have been crises with various airlines, whether it's a jet or uh, Kingfisher. So we have had experiences when the crisis has happened, contingencies have happened, and teams have taken care of it. Can really be done better, but I think that yes, definitely it can be done better. But when it comes to women folks, I think that teams have done a fabulous job. The app has many features which can really be used for reaching out to the teams and raising concerns. So that way, I think things have improved, and as an organization, we are conscious about.
So that's about your service. And in your organization, what specific initiatives that you are taking when it comes to inclusion?
Uh, I think first clearly is education and awareness, right? You take people through these sensitivity discussions on a regular basis, right? Uh, in our case, we are fortunate to have workforce of women who are uh, evolved to a great extent. They also don't like to be discriminated as a men and women. I try to do a leadership program for the women, and a set of senior leaders, women leaders said that why do you need to have a separate program for the women leaders? It should be a common program for everyone. And so we realized that I think hiring right set of people and training people on sensitivity and a professional commitment had been one good area wherein I think that we have worked and we have gained a lot of benefits out of it. Within the organization, we have different ERGs, employee resource groups. We have a mentoring mold module. We have programs for the women who are expected to go on maternity, are on maternity, and when they come back from maternity. So there are trained mentors within the system and organization who have been put for these jobs, and women or the lady colleagues are connected with them. How to keep them connected with the work while they're on maternity. How to tell them that how to make choices when you are coming back from the work from the maternity at the workplace. So I think there are mentoring modules, there are mentoring molds, there are trained mentors within the organization. And these are the women who are mentoring our own folks, and they're part of our own organization. We don't hire mentors from outside because these are real cases who know that how careers are built. They also present organizational point of view. They also tell people that it's a biological clock of a woman. There's a career evolution and there's a biological clock, and many times they can be in contradiction to each other at different stages. One needs to make choices, and if you have made a choice, it's important for you to be at ease, at peace with this choice. Time doesn't really run out. Short term, settling down can really be caught up at a later point of time, but losing hope in the system, losing hope in the team in the shorter span of time may not really be the best thing to do. So a lot of conversation happens here. In our case, for the women also, senior leaders are taken to the programs, and more than senior leaders, we also ensure that respect for people as one of our values is ingrained in every individual. Even at the junior level folks, the trainings will happen around this. A lot of internal work happens, and I have realized that inclusion as a principle is driven more from the top. It can remain as a value for the organization. It can be more as a stated vision or the mission of the organization, but it has to be a demonstrated value. If you see the demonstration of these values on the floor by the leaders, it rubs off to other people in the system. So we are very focused in ensuring that we are demonstrating those inclusiveness. I personally, in HR, every 6 months, I look at the compensation data. I look at when the promotion data comes to me, I look at that who has got missed out. And it's not that you are doing any favor to anyone. You are just trying to be doubly sure about some of the biases which might be sitting in some corner of the organization. So how do you really take the flag of all these areas which can be sort of a individual biases, whether it's a compensation, work, mentoring for the women who are facing challenges, mentoring for the people who are facing challenges at the personal level. It's why only women. I think a lot to do also with the young parents, young fathers who also run a family which is, both of the people are working, and the child has to be really taken care of. So I think that we are sensitive and we keep our ears to the ground to get information and keep creating our policies and guidelines around it. We also believe a lot in communicating these, talking to people. In a month, at least I'll meet 15 to 20 people one-on-one. Every week, at least 4 to 5 people just for general conversation to figure out what is going on. Our diversity, equity, inclusion initiative team is led by a group CTO. It's not led by me. He leads this, and all the senior leaders at a -2 level are the part of that. It is not a HR driven agenda. It's an org agenda driven by a senior leader who has around 40% of the organization under his span. So I think it's important to include people rather than direct and say this is what the policies and guidelines are. So a lot of work is happening, and as I said, Deep himself is a huge champion of inclusivity. Rajesh is very sensitive about issues when it comes to the workforce as a co-founder and chairman as Deep. So I think it's driven from the top, and if people see those behaviors, I think it is demonstrated.
So I have this last question on diversity piece, is there a defined course for queer community and for PWDs to apply in MMT very openly and comfortably? Is there a process?
There is no as such, distinction when you are hiring. I don't think that we ask that what's your orientation. But more than answering this question, it's important to understand that, we operate in a social structure. When people start talking about diversity needs to go to the different level, 30%, 40%. I run an organization as a group CHRO which has 50% population of engineers and the technology guys. If you go to the colleges, you will find only 10 to 15% engineers who are getting churned out. If that gap exists in the society, how do you fill it in the organization? One way is that you hire everyone who's women just to really tick mark your exercise on a diversity and
Of
inclusion.
course not. We are looking for skill set.
Yes, you are looking for a skill set. So I think it has to be done by and by. So if you extend the same logic for queers, LGBTQI, I think people right now in our society, forget about people uh, who are not in that category of LGBTQI or queer. People who belong to that category or orientation, they themselves are not very comfortable sharing it or telling it in the
So
society.
I have a little feedback from, people who I talk to very regularly. And very recently, one person was sharing her experience that because she's a trans person and she was applying to a consultancy, she said that she was not given the same respect in the waiting area where she'd gone for an interview, while when she entered the room where HR was interviewing, also at the end said that skill set is great, but you are a very different person, and I don't know if you will feel comfortable working with us because we don't know whether others around you will be able to accept you. Rather than saying things like that by the HR or the organization, what my maybe suggestion or maybe a question to you would be that, don't you think so? It is a very big responsibility for organizations to sensitize their people before even interviewing anybody. So I'm saying, let's say there are only two people who are from the queer community or PWD. Is their environment conducive enough for them to be part of an organization without being reminded that they are a trans person? Can we create that kind of ecosystem?
In our organization, we have people with this orientation, and I don't think anybody bothers. Anybody would like to even talk about it.
Happy to hear that.
I think there are some I know, there may be many whom I don't know about it because we don't try to figure out
Find that out.
and find it out. It's normal for us.
I mean, that's how it should be.
That is how it should be.
Yeah.
It's decision of hiring is more on meritocracy, what you bring to the table, and I don't even want to get into the debate of people with different orientation bring some very different skill set. These all can be really nuanced explanation of people's orientation, but I personally believe, and that is what we follow, that anybody who brings their skill sets comes onto the table and works with us.
Okay, so thank you so much, Yuvraj, for giving answers for all these questions. We'll end the podcast with some rapid fire questions. My first question is, what's been your favorite destination when you traveled?
I love traveling to Bhutan, Thimphu. I think very, very serene place, and I have liked hills. And it was also basically me, my wife, and my son. He was still very young. That was the first vacation we did. And so the overall climate, place, serenity, people, all put together, I think I love that place. Other than that, I think I would have traveled many places within the country. Uttarakhand hills are also very, very alluring to me, sort of a thing. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. And any specific travel destination for people at the workplace who are going through extreme stress or some kind of crisis and they just want to go somewhere and you have a suggestion for them? Do you have any specific place for them to go which you recommend?
Like a take a break place.
So I would say that places are defined by the people who are accompanying you. So if you are stressed, take a nice homestay at any place, gather a couple of good friends and people and go with them, and you'll have a blast of a time. Because I think vacations are more with the people whom you travel. Well, solo traveling is also important, but memorable travel, de-stressing travel is something what you can do with the friends. And prefer to stay in a place wherein you can be on your own, independent, do a lot of team bonding. And I feel that friends and the people whom you are comfortable with bring best out of you. And if anything brings best out of you, is the best way to really de-stress yourself. So that's how I'll say you can go anywhere, I think, for that matter, yeah.
Since you mentioned Bhutan, it is known to be a happy place, right? So what is your definition of happiness personally? and at the workplace?
My happiness mantra is that, keep moving forward. I am very forgive and forget things very fast. In the sense, nothing stays with me in case there's something which is negative, right? I have an ability to really trust people very quickly, and I approach that relationship with that sort of an attitude. So then what happens? I think normally you are starting on a very positive note. For me, happiness at personal level is my son's conversation with me, spending time with my wife, doing different type of conversation. She's a very, very evolved thinker on different aspects. Perhaps she would have more ideas and thoughts than me on diverse set of things in
Yeah, we
social
did have a
structure,
little chat,
yeah,
so yes, I did get to
politics, or
experience it.
finance, economy, HR. So I think it's a great learning. While we may end up really not agreeing, but at the end of the conversation, I feel that I have found some elements to really reflect and think. So that's another happiness for me. My happiness also is to talk to people on phone. I travel from Noida to Gurgaon every day 2 hours. In the evening, I travel back for 2 hours. So I have this time which is available for me to talk to people. So I like to give call to various people in terms of family, friends, and that gives me a huge kick to really surprise somebody. "Arey, tumhara kaise phone aa gaya?" Sort of a thing. I thought that really, so that's one way of really feeling happy. And at the workplace, uh, I have a good set of team. I have good set of team. I have been working with them for long. There's a huge retention, as you have evolved hinted at. So I think spending time with them, having a cup of coffee, my HR leadership team meeting may happen for 1 hour without having discussed anything which is to do with work. And finally, we'll say the work is time is over, so we'll go away and rather maybe meet later. So it's not very agenda driven. So I think this gives me a lot of happiness. Yeah.
Next one would be your favorite quote that you live by.
When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. It's a commando's adage, and that's what I believe in. That your real metal comes out when things are uh, going southwards. COVID, we experienced it. When we had an integration merger, we experienced it. When I had various situations with the tough unions in Bombay, in Asian Paints, it was demonstrated. So I believe that best comes out when you are in an adverse situation. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
Great. And one advice to all our future HR leaders who will look to become CHROs, from a seasoned one to the newcomers.
No, I think that all of them, most of them are doing well, and HR team in every organization is contributing immensely in terms of building the organization. My advice only would be that, I think look at the processes and try to unbuild them rather than building onto the existing processes. If you'll unbuild the process, you'll find larger canvas to really play and be more in sync with the people and the organizational needs rather than really trying to build on the existing processes. If you build on existing processes become bulky and you are only adding a layer. So think afresh, challenge current wisdom, and as a HR professional, understand where the money comes in the organization. People say that learn business. Even if you don't want to learn business, at least understand where the money is coming from in the organization. If you can understand that, then I think that all your actions can really be driven towards facilitating it and empowering it and enabling it, sort of a thing.
Fantastic. So thank you for joining us today, Yuvraj. We've had a fantastic conversation and it was just awesome. I loved every bit of it.
Thanks to both of you for really joining. I enjoyed talking and sharing thoughts. And thanks to both of you for bringing best out of me, or rather whatever could really be brought out. It
No,
really
thank
took me
you
back
so
to
much, Yuvraj, for being with us on Office Tales and People podcast. We thoroughly loved your tips, and I'm going to follow some travel tips as well.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you for watching Office Tales and People podcast. Today we had Make My Trip CHRO Yuvaraj Srivastava, and I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. Please join in for more episodes coming up, and don't forget to sign up for our YouTube channel, Office Tales and People podcast.